Coming up on the Whitney Reynolds Show, we are on location with a power mom who's breaking racial stigma. She's not only raised NBA superstar Dwayne Wade, but is dedicated to raising African-American kids across Chicago's South Side. The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Children's Learning Place, excellence in early childhood education since 1998, educating Chicago's children for 20 years. And the Auto Barn Mazda of Evanston and Chicago, the Auto Barn Mazda, where driving matters. Special thanks to Cedric Newbern of Phoenix Insurance, an Allstate insurance agency, the Illinois chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Dr. Daftari and the team at Art of Modern Dentistry, Kevin Kelly with Jameson Sotheby's International Realty, STI Movers, Mazda, Chicago Andrea Creative, and Cellular Intelligence. Welcome to a special on-location taping of The Whitney Reynolds Show. We are taking a hard look at racial tension, barriers, and finding out ways to break the stigmas from a woman who's done it herself. You're watching The Whitney Reynolds Show. Welcome to the show, Pastor Jalinda Wade. I want you to start with this Show Me Your Blackness movement. Tell us about the declaration.
The declaration, if you don't mind, can I say it? It says, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Make your case, I'm black and I'm great. Do your thing, I'm black and I mean the world to me. Going to be all that I can be, standing on the shoulders of Black history, then say it loud.
I love that.
Amen.
How did you develop this declaration? Because there's a lot of good words in there. How did that come to you?
Well, number one, it's about making a statement. When I was coming up, you know, they used to say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. And I remembered what it did for me. Just to say it, you know, it seemed like it gave you identity. Then I want to encourage young people, so I make your case, you know, I'm black and I'm great, you know, and then it brought in the last part where teaching them who they really are and letting them know that they're more than just what they see on 21st century reality TV and things of that nature there. So I'm going to be all that I can be, standing on the shoulder of a Black history, and say it loud, make that statement.
So when you're working with these kids, are you using examples from history? Are you using pillars from Black history?
Yes. What I've chose to do was to identify Blacks that have did something. Blacks that I learned about when I was coming up, George Washington Carver, this and that. And so what I'll do when I get my class of young people, I'll ask them to give me a list of Black people that they basically learn about on Black History Month. And what happened is everybody have the same list practically, and the list was so small. And it was discouraging to me that our babies was not really getting the impact of who they are. So I knew I had to do my homework too. So, yeah.
So you researched people that you felt like these kids should know about from history.
Yes.
What did you come up with? Were you kind of shocked by your own list that you came up with?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. It's so many of them. Like for my spring session, there was somebody, Professor Tibilo Nayakon. We studied about her, was born October 1951. I pull out things important that I think can minister to them at that particular moment.
When you look back on the history, do you show the kids how far everything has come?
Yes. I think it's very important that they know that, because a lot of the children, to be honest with you, Whitney, they don't know this about their history. It's like it got lost somewhere. When I was studying about it, I looked and saw how Black history used to be a celebratory place, and we're not celebrating anymore.
Why do you feel that's happening?
Oh, because we're devoid of our history. to put the responsibility where it needs to be first of all in our homes.
With the kids that you're working with, do they feel like there's a big segregated part of Chicago?
Actually, no. They don't even know that a segregation part of Chicago is going on. They're really basically the ones that I teach are basically caught up in their own, their own world. They probably figured this is it right here, So somebody have to let them know, no. This is not it. There's something outside of this here. That's when in the declaration you hear standing on the shoulders of Black history. They need to know about blood being spilled for them. They need to know about the sacrifices that was made for them. And you have to do it where you can not depressing them, but I do it where we can celebrate it.
That's what I'm pulling out, which I think feels so amazing about what you're teaching these kids. It's not creating more tension. And tell me if I'm reading this right. It's not a white versus black type tension thing. It is a celebration of where we came from.
Yes, that's what it's all about. Just like I said, letting them know who they are and stirring that thing up in them. Sure, my son is a professional basketball player, but he's so much more, you see. And some of them get caught in that place that this is what I want to be. I want to be a footballer. I want to be a rapper. And I say that's fine, but there's so much more within inside of you. And if I can help the mamas and all of them out there who are working now and can't teach them and do this thing that I'm led to do, then by God, I'm going to do it. And I love teaching them.
So these kids, they come, they say this declaration, and they're seeing it get to live out in their own lives.
And what I do, I ask them, what do the declaration mean to them? What am I doing? I'm giving them a chance to basically speak from their own minds. You see, I'm not just putting everything in their mind. What do that mean? What do you pull a meaning out of it? So I get them to do things like that there. I have them to write down their name. I said, say it. That name means identity. And then I tell them the purpose of taking care of that name. And I explain to them between that name and when you go to prison, because I had that experience. I said, you lose it. You don't have, I said, I was not Joe Linda Wade in prison. I became a number. So you want to take care of this name that you got. So we talk about the identity. Then we talk about their goals, their dreams. Some of them say, I don't have a dream, because they don't know what a dream looked like.
So you get these kids in here, and some of them don't even know how to dream.
No. It's a dream, but they don't know that
they can do
this is a dream. This is their goal that they want to be. And then so I say, well, do you have a picture that comes in your head and something that you really feel you? They say, yeah, I know. I want to be a dancer. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a psychologist. You'll be surprised the things that these young people want to do.
Do you feel like this is something that all schools across the whole United States, no matter what state you're in, no matter what your ethnicity, should be able to learn more about Black history?
I think so. It really blessed me today to even find out that actually October is Black History Month in the UK. That's when they teach it and study it. So February in the United States and October in the UK. So that was just amazing for me to learn that. And I think that it's a great tool. It's a great it used to be done in our school, when I was going to school. They paid more attention to it and this and that. And I just think it'd be a great thing for them to have. What I do, I go outside of just Black history, and I deal to make my program is so different. I deals also with that individual. You see, because show me your Blackness, or show me my Blackness, as we say, it deals with the emotional part of the individual as well. We're going to deal with the soul, the spirit, and the body. And emotionally, you could tell from the temperature of the atmosphere of the neighborhoods that a lot of them don't know how to deal with these emotions when they come up. When that anger come up, what do I do with it? They don't know what to do with these things. So I have had the opportunity to use that as a platform. And I did it with my spring session this summer. And I didn't know it stuck until we did the end of the program. And one of the young men that was on the program doing a media thing, they said, what you learned in Mama Wade's class, they call me Mama Wade. He said that a soft answer diffuses anger.
So they're actually able to go out and apply this.
Yes.
I love.
And we don't know the degree because I get them from 3rd grade to 8th grade right now. So we don't know the degree of what that thing is doing, but just having the confidence to know that that particular knowledge, this particular thing in which I'm allowed to place inside of them is doing something.
And you placed that little light in your son as well. He's doing major things in Chicago. Let's take a look at his interview that I actually had with him years ago. Let's take a look at that.
But it is so good to have you back. And tell us about this weekend. Like, what are you trying to do?
Every year we try to focus on the need in the community. And this year we're focusing on 2 different areas. We're focusing on literacy and we're focusing on bullying. We try to get in front of our youth, kind of while they're going through the process and some beforehand, in a sense. So we're trying to make sure we direct them on the right track and before they get off of it.
How did you become so passionate about these 2 things? I mean, literacy is huge. And I feel like for the youth to know like how important it is to read and stay current. And then also bullying is something that has lately been in the news, I want to say, in the last few years.
Sure. I think just being a kid myself. And,
were you bullied?
I got bullied before.
Oh, I would never want to cross you on the playground.
No, I got crossed on the playground, but I've got bullied before. And when it comes to literacy, I mean, I've been a kid who's been afraid to raise his hand in class or afraid to get picked when it comes to reading because I wasn't confident in reading because I didn't like it, at the time. And until I found a teacher that kind of brought me out. It kind of brought something to me that made me like it, kind of made it cool. So, I try to make sure that these kids understand that knowledge is power and the importance of education.
So we just heard from your son, and he is involved in big things across the board to helping others. But his life and your life weren't always like this. You weren't a pastor of a church back in the day. In fact, you were homeless at one point.
Yeah.
Tell us about how everything started for you.
Oh, wow. Started off being this good mother. And Dwayne, he was my only son. So he was, I got my 3 daughters, and I bless God for him, but to get that only son. So he was my prize, And at that particular time, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to do the whole ride, the whole 9 yards, be this good mother and, good wife to my husband because I was married to his father at the time. You couldn't tell me that my life was going to go in the direction that it went in. And, used to drink here and there, always drank, but used to drink here and there, smoke, but never thought never thought this addiction thing was forming up in my life. When me and his father did separate and I went back to stay with my mom, trying to find out who I am now, that's when I went into that dark place of the drug addiction now and the alcoholism and the party life and all them things that I was restrained from. And so what it did, it basically separated me from my children.
How did you get into the drugs and the drinking? Was it just you were single and out partying? Is that how it happened? Or?
No, I actually started drinking when I was in grammar school. I had a self-identity problem. I was this introvert, wouldn't talk to nobody and hanging with these girls that was extroverts, and they said, try this. And it was peppermint snap. And I said, no, because, they'll smell it. They said, oh, girl, they ain't going to smell it. They're going to think you had some peppermint. Oh. Naive. Yeah. And so I remember drinking it, and it made me feel different. I felt good. I liked this person because I was, I wasn't that shy person no more. I was out. I could say what I want to say, this and that. And I got back to school, and sure enough, the teacher, and I had a good reputation of being a good girl. And so she called me to the hall, and you been drinking? I said, no, ma'am. Fool. And it went from there. It went from there. Since I liked the way it made me feel that first time, I started drinking after that. And then it led to the weed, try this. It was always a try this. Right. And I was the type of person that tried it.
And then it just grew. It went from like alcohol to drugs to alcohol.
And I always loved that it covered up who I was. It was like protecting the quiet girl or the girl who just wasn't popular, protecting her from anything that might try to come against me. So
you got into drugs. You lost your house at one point.
I lost everything. My children got separated from me. My son went to stay with his father. My baby girl also, she was staying with him for a minute. And my other daughter went to California, and my oldest daughter's the only one that basically stayed around, but she was living in the project, having her own family at this time. And
Did you have, even when you were in this state of losing everything, what kept you alive?
I believe it was prayer and the love of my children. Even though I had bowed out, they never forgot the mother that I was. And that is what stuck. That's what held. Now that I talk to them today, the love that we showed one to another when we were in the house, in the home, playing together, cooking together, you know, just me being who I was, even though I wasn't the best, I wasn't the worst at that time, you know. So that's what kept me. My mama praying for me, my family, you know, just people like that there, you know.
It's remarkable to think about this for you, because here you are, a pastor, Dwayne Wade's mama. I mean, you've literally raised a superstar, and y'all are both doing huge things in Chicagoland, across the United States. I mean, you were in the trenches doing big things, yet you one time were actually in the trenches because you needed help.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I you know, like I said, homeless. My brother, he's not here with me today. His name is, we call him Fast Eddie. He was the abandoned building landlord. Everybody got him to keep their abandoned buildings. So because he was this person, he always told me, sis, you always got a room in one of my abandoned buildings. So I always had one of them rooms to stay in. So he showed me, not knowing, but he showed me how to be homeless. He showed me how to live. He showed me how to survive. Just watching him, but I didn't know at the time this is what he was showing me. We got up, we let each other know, the church down there giving away this, that church giving away that. You got to be there at this time, that time. So we helped each other when we was up in these abandoned buildings, and we made it to get the food bags, stuff like things that God got me doing today. I didn't know that He was going to use them places that I had went to and the experience that I had for me to be able now to give it back.
Right.
To the ones like people. And I know the temperature. I tell them, they'll tell you, don't curse at them. If they come in drunk, all out of order, this and that, that's not your job to say anything negative to them. Just give them the food.
Right.
You see.
Because you've been there.
I've been there.
You've done that.
Yeah.
You've walked that road.
Yeah.
And now you're guiding people out of that road, which is remarkable. So what was that point for you where life turned? Because to be where you are now and to be where you were at does not happen overnight.
It was, you know, it was really just being tired, Whitney. Just being tired. I call it a silent tired because I wouldn't say it out of my mouth because I was on escape from the law at the same time, and I did believe that God did hear you, and I didn't want Him to hear me say, I'm tired, help me. So I kept it within inside of myself, but I didn't know at the time that God knew the heart of man. See, I know now. And just one day, he came and visited in my head, this voice in my head. Matter of fact, I had an anniversary coming up, October the 14th, 2001, when I heard the voice, and it told me to go to church. And I didn't want to go to church. I had just been dope beat. I was dope sick. I just didn't want to be bothered with nobody. I was just going to stay in the house and try to hustle and get me some money to get me another fix. But this voice that was stronger than me kept saying, go to church. So I did. I went to church and, you know, mad and everything, and the pastor gonna holler about Joe Linda, read 2 Timothy 3:5. And I'm like, who, me? Because I didn't want to read. I felt like I was being picked on, you know. And so I did read it. And when I read it, it says, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. And that's all I heard. And when that word spoke that, everything went silent in my mind, and I heard this voice again saying, you're gonna stop denying my spirit the power to change you. It's time to make a choice.
So you had to then turn yourself in. Did you know what was going to be ahead of you? Did you know that you'd probably have to serve some time? Did you?
Well, you know what? That's what kept me out. The fear that, oh boy, when I go back, you know, I'm gonna have to, because they give you 8 years escape time, so I'm gonna get 7, 8 years plus the time I still had left on my sentence. And so it just grew, and it kept me outside of the door. But once the voice of the Lord spoke to me, everything became minimized. You know, He came after, in October, He came after the heroin and the alcohol. In November, He came after the cigarettes. And then in December, that's when I heard, you got to turn yourself in.
So it came in waves.
It came in waves.
Oh, wow. What a great voice, though, to hear and then to take action and actually do. Well, you've come so far, and that's what we want to ask our viewers at home. How have you personally been able to overcome a destructive pattern in your own life? Let's take a look at this week's Viewer's Voice.
So how I broke a destructive pattern in my life. As a kid, I used to struggle with anger, lots of anger, stemming from my father and family situations. Got in a lot of fights. And what really helped me get through that was just relaxing, being patient, thinking through your actions, and just playing it chill.
So I broke a destructive pattern in my life because I became vegan. So I've been vegan for 2 months. And yeah, I don't eat any meat or animal byproduct. And it's helping the environment, it's helping my physical self, and it's helping the animals.
So for years, I grew up very religious. Ever since I was a little kid, I was going to church twice a week. And in going to this church, I sort of became indoctrined into a lot of ideas that were more based in other people's insecurities and not exactly what the Bible was saying. And then I met a really cool youth pastor who sort of turned things around for me and taught me, hey, you don't have to listen to what other people are saying about religion, you can just make it your own. And now I'm not a very religious person, but I still sort of subscribe to a lot of the be good to other people stuff. And yeah, spirituality can be what you want it to be.
Get social with us. Make your voice heard. Submit your video on WhitneyReynolds.com.
It's amazing to see how you overcame that stage of your life, and now you're doing huge things. Tell us about your book.
My book, Divine Grace Behind the Wall. The title came from the place that I had got to while I was doing segregation time. And I got to know this God that became this voice in my head that was guiding me and I was following. And I got to know him in such of a way. When my assignment came to write until they tell me to stop, it took me up to a place of introducing me to the Bible and introducing me to his voice out of the Bible, taking me to scriptures and actually speaking to me from them, and then resting me in a place, and then I just sit and I just write, teaching me how to even speak to him, pray to him. So that was like that intimate time with me. And
Behind the bars.
The wall,
oh,
yeah.
Behind the wall.
Yeah.
And you were in prison at that time.
I was in segregation.
Oh my goodness. So that is something that everyone should read, because that's a time in your life that you're probably in the middle of the learning curve.
Yes, there you go. I love how you said that.
Yeah, you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So something we can all learn from. And then where we're taping today, we are actually at your church and life transformational changing center. Tell us about this.
Amen. Yes, this here, where we're sitting in now, we're in the what we call the Willie Mae Moore's Empowerment Center. This place was named after our mother. We chose not to name it after Dwayne. We chose to name it after the matriarch, the one who, because of her, we are who we are. Because that lady prayed, that's why I'm out, because God hears the prayer of his children. And so we came, this thing became a picture in our head. It was a vision in our mind to be able to help the community, because we love to help people. Mom always did it, to get up where they can come in, the room we in today, I call it the exhale room, where they can come up off the streets and they can get in here and get a place where they can just relax, man, because there's so much going out that's happening around in the world today. And then we got the dream rooms over on the other side of the building, where they can go and they can get involved in different dreams and different
teaching
things
kids to dream.
Yes.
And so if they want to be something, you help create that
we help
in the
create
room,
the dream,
which
yes.
is amazing.
Yes.
And going back to the kids, where do you feel like we are in the United States with this racial division? What would you do?
Well, you know, where we are, the light done shined on it, and it showed how we're still so separated, where it didn't look like we were in that place, but we are. We're so separated. So the question is, what do we do in the separate place in which we are? What we do, the thing that God placed on me, Show Me My Blackness, is them getting their voice and knowing how to use their voice. Because one thing that have happened is that we're separated, but yet we're still one. You know, it takes Martin Luther King to see the people that he was able to arrive together, the different colors, the different cultures, all of us coming together as one. That's what we are in this city. And everybody know where they're at, but not being jealous or being upset because you are who you are and I am who I am, but coming together and being one. That's what we got to thrive for.
That is beautiful. Oh, I love that. Coming together as one.
Yes.
Well, thank you for passing on that message to our viewers today. We wish you nothing but the best. Keep doing what you're doing because you are the light out in this community.
Thank you.
For more information on the show or to find out more about Pastor Jolinda Wade, go to WhitneyReynolds.com. We'll see you right back here next week. And remember, you too can be the change.
Go beyond the interview with our 52-week guide of inspiration. The book goes deeper with the stories you see right here on The Whitney Reynolds Show. To order your copy for $12.95 plus shipping and handling, go to WhitneyReynolds.com/store. The Whitney Reynolds Show is supported by Children's Learning Place, excellence in early childhood education since 1998, educating Chicago's children for 20 years. And the Auto Barn Mazda of Evanston and Chicago, the Auto Barn Mazda, where driving matters. Special thanks to Cedric Newbern of Phoenix Insurance, an Allstate insurance agency, the Illinois chapter of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Dr. Daftari and the team at Art of Modern Dentistry, Kevin Kelly with Jameson Sotheby's International Realty, STI Movers, Mazda, Chicago Andrea Creative, and Cellular Intelligence.